Just chat a little bit about the controversy at the weekend. I suppose very disappointing for the GA for something in such a big game to happen like.
Yeah, look, it's hugely unfortunate, but look, at the end of the day, it was human error, and while we can point a finger and blame, everybody and anybody, there's not much we can do about it. And I think, look, we just moved on and got focused on the next job in hand straight away, and didn't really put much heed in it. I know obviously the media has had a lot of coverage of it, but look, it's human error. Can't do anything about it. Sorry.
Can I just say though, do you think if you were in the Kilkenny camp you'd feel the same way?
Yeah, look, I can understand if they're not happy, but look, as I think somebody said inside, look, they're a real traditional county, and if they didn't win it on the field, I don't think they were ever going to go down the boardroom route, and I'd like to think if it was on the other foot it'd be the same way.
Before we get into talk about the final, can we reflect a little bit about the difference in the last couple of years? Bottom the Munster Championship, I think it was just one provincial win over 2 years. And I was reading some of the articles and some of the stuff from Liam saying, a lot of things needed to be corrected and the players really took control of this. Can you tell us a little bit more that maybe you saw a change in the group coming into this year?
Yeah, I suppose, look, we obviously the management, we met quite a few times, last summer after we got knocked out of the championship, and obviously we set out a path that we wanted to go down player-wise, and obviously do it structure-wise. And Liam, in fairness, he was the figurehead and really drove that and led that, and was really strong on what he wanted. And we just went after that with the players, and look, the players bought in from the off, and they knew what they had given last year wasn't good enough to represent the jersey, and everyone has bought in, top to bottom, be it the main man on the field and the last person in the back room. Everybody's really bought in, and it's a collective thing, I think. But the other side of it is too, like, I suppose, people get really, I suppose the best way I put it is, I'd always like to think you never get too down when things go wrong, and you don't get too carried away when they're going great. But unfortunately, that doesn't work in sport, and people do. It's over the top criticism at times when things don't go well, and likewise it's over the top when things go well. So look, if we could keep it somewhere in the middle, maybe it might taper down expectations at times.
And if you could pinpoint, just for instance, one thing that is way beyond where you were last year, whether it be tactically, preparation by the players, a positional thing, what do you think is the one thing that you would say, look, you've really improved that area?
Yeah, I don't know, but look, there's lots of small gains, I think, is the best way I could put it, rather than one particular thing. And I'd like to think that's the way most guys are thinking, rather than I think Noel McGrath put it very aptly on Sunday when he said something about maybe we were 5 or 6% off last year, and it's small margins, and we're 5 or 6% the other way now, and all of a sudden there's 10-15% of a difference, and that's, it sounds small when you add the two sides, but it's quite substantial when you put it all together. I think that's a very good way of looking at it.
One of the big things that I've noticed, certainly, and we've seen from many great teams in both codes over the years, is the impact of the bench and what that boost can give you. Again, that was evidence.
Yeah, look, we're very fortunate, I suppose, as the year progressed. We were always finding, we gave players opportunities, and we found a few new players, and I think the last 5 championship games since the Clare game, I think we've emptied the bench every day, and to be fair, I think pretty much every one of them has made some considerable sort of contribution on any given day, which is huge.
Your last win was back in 2019. The Cork side, I suppose, might have the current crop of players a bit more experience, but of losing finals. Do you think that gives them a little edge going into the match, in the fact that they have that? I'm not saying you're not determined, but yourself when you lose a final that you come back, you want to bounce back stronger.
Yeah, look, there's always, I suppose, when you lose a final, everybody, the saying often goes, you have to lose one to win one. Look, I don't necessarily buy into that. It's just, look, they have, I suppose, a little bit more experience in Croke Park, but I think we got that out of the way at the weekend. We had 15 minutes maybe where we were slightly caught in the headlights, but I think everybody bought in, in our own squad. Whilst we have the other guys that have their All-Ireland medals, all the younger guys have minor and 20, and they're hugely experienced across different levels and coming up along. So I don't think that's going to have a bearing on the day.
I think Liam did say that it was a puck of the ball when we look at Munster and Leinster in, you know, getting to a final. But it's the second year now, I think, in a row for a Munster final. And also, which weirdly enough, it's the first time a Tipp and Cork final. It's a bit of history there, isn't there?
Yeah, look, I suppose I might, you can correct me on this now, I'm not sure, we're probably, about 30 years where the back door is in operation, where I think the first one was probably Clare Tipp in about 97, I think. I can be corrected on that. And obviously Cork are only, you know, haven't won one since the early 90s. So look, there's huge expectations down there. And rightly so, they have been the form team all year. But look, we'll go about our business quietly and we'll see where it takes us.
It was 15 points between the two teams back in April, wasn't there? Is that something you worry about? Is that something that keeps you up at night, or was that something that there was lots learned on that day?
Oh, look, I think we had huge learnings that day, and whilst, you know, we had the score differential, I won't say we came home happy, but we were contented in the knowledge that we played 76 minutes with 14 men, and the second half, I can't tell you the exact score, but it was very even the second half, while the Blisters maybe in a 10-minute streak. So look, if we can limit them hot spells that when they really turn it on, that's really, I suppose, what we have to go after early and try and limit them early on and stay in the game and see where it takes us.
Did they impress you against Dublin?
Yeah, they did. There's no point saying they didn't. But look, they're ruthless. They're going for goals. That's what they're after, and you know, to try and put you in a hole early in the game, and you know, it's very hard to come back from big deficits early in a match. So look, we'll have to see how we go about that.
A couple of questions. Just Dublin, you know, I think with their tactics, they just seem to go for it and give it everything. Do you think that's the wrong approach? Do you think you'll take a more slightly siphoned approach?
Everything is personnel related, and I suppose whilst I know 2 games are in the league, this will be our 4th meeting with Cork this year between the group stages in the league and the league final, and obviously the first round of the Munster Championship. So look, they've seen us plenty and we've seen them plenty, so hopefully we'll get more right for the next day. Hopefully we'll give it everything we have anyway. Good man.